sefer back if he's actually learning from it. Okay. So we're going to continue this discussion of loans, of lending stuff.
Rabbi, can you share the screen, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the shaila. She'ela, sha'alti machshir refu'i v'natati biyad hamashil check eravon. I borrowed a medical device from my friend. I don't know what the medical device is. I don't think it really matters. What kind of medical device would you borrow? A CPAP machine, let's say. A thermometer. Okay.
You stick it in your ear.
Okay. And I gave the lender a check as a guarantee. Or as if anything happens to your machine, you can cash the check. The hamachshir avad, and it turns out that I lost it. Ha'im ani chayav l'shalem ala machshir olo? Do I have to pay for the medical device or not? Got lost. Now, why is this a shaila?
Yeah, it just says it gave him a check as a collateral.
I don't know why this is even a shaila. So let's see. Ne'amar b'Torah v'chi yishal yishmeim re'ehu v'nishbar omes be'alav enimo shalem yishalem im balav imo lo yishalem. So it says in the Torah that if a person will borrow from his friend any item that gets broken or dies, if it's, let's say, an animal, if the owner is not present at the time when the mishap occurs, then he shall surely pay. The borrower shall surely pay. If the owner is present, however, then he doesn't have to pay. B'darshu rabosenu im yelav imo lo yishalem hakavana she'im haba'olam yu mush'alim l'shoel b'shat ha'she'ela. He says that what this means is that if she'im ha'be'alim yihiyu mush'alim l'shoel b'shat ha'she'ela, that if the owner are lent to the borrower at the time of the loan, afal pi shelo hayu imo b'shat ha'ones, even if they were not present at the time of the mishap, so then the borrower is going to be exempt. I don't even know what that means. Let's take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. B'chei nifsak b'Shulchan Aruch b'zeh halashon. He says the Shulchan Aruch writes as follows: Hamafkid eitzel chavero im shoal hashomer es haba'olim im hadover shalahem osacharam. That in the event that the person who's borrowing the item also borrows the owner or hires the owner, meaning, will you help me? Like I'm lending, I'm borrowing your lawnmower and I need help mowing the lawn. Arei hashomer pater miklom. Then the shomer is exempt if the mishap occurs. Afilu pasha bedavar sheshamar va'avad machmas hapshia hareze pater. Even if there was actual negligence, he's going to be exempt. Shenemar im ba'alav imo lo yishalim. That it says, because it says that if the owner is present with him, he doesn't have to pay. Bamedvar mamurim b'shashal haba'olim osachran be'eshanatal hachefetz. That's referring to a case where I borrow or hire your services when I take the item from you. Or if I had borrowed the item prior to my borrowing or hiring your services. Since they were present b'malachto, the owner was present during his work, and at the time when he borrowed the item, though the owner is not physically present when it gets lost, he's going to be pater. Aval im natal hachefetz v'nasa alav shomer tchila, v'achar kach sochar haba'olim o sha'alam, afal pi shahayu haba'olim imo b'malachto be'eshen evad chayav. But if, in other words, it's an interesting halacha. Normally, we understand the halacha to mean that if the owner is present at the time that the mishap occurs, then the borrower will be exempt. But that's not how it's interpreted by the Gemara or the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says that if I had borrowed or rented the owner's services before or during the time when I borrow the object, then if a mishap occurs with the object, even if the owner is not present at the time of the mishap, I'm going to be potter. If, however, I borrowed the item first, and then I asked the owner to come over and help me, so then even if the mishap occurs with the owner present, I'm going to be chayav. V'chein mavur b'shulchan aruch ayin sham. So that's the halach in the Shulchan Aruch. V'hinei kosav hashach b'shem haran. So the Shach writes, quoting the Ran, the hashol chayfetz mechavero, v'hiniach alav mashkon biyad hamashiel, have shoel v'chayev ba'onsen. That if a person borrows an item from his friend and provides him with a collateral item, then the shoel is going to be liable on all mishaps. And also the lender who is holding the collateral is also going to be liable, it sounds like, for the collateral. In other words, if anything happens to the collateral, the lender will be liable for compensation of the collateral. V'kasvu hatumim v'hanesivos, shedivrei hashach amurim davka imosar hashol es hamashkon shelo b'sha'as hashe'ela. And the commentaries explain that that's only if there was an exchange at the time of the loan. I give you an item to borrow, you give me a collateral item, and it's a clean exchange. So if that's the case, that in the event, this is an interesting phenomenon, which I may have heard before, but I'm just not familiar with it right now. That in time, if the exchange is made simultaneous, I give you my medical device, you give me a collateral item, then that's considered to be she'ela biva'olim. That's considered to be borrowing the owner at the same time that I'm borrowing the object. In other words, that we both become, and I guess what that means is, we both become sho'alim, we both become borrowers, and therefore the sho'el of the medical device is going to be potter if a mishap occurs with the device.
The device, if it's like Mesa Machmas Malacha, again, like.
Now, so if it's Mesa Machmas Malacha, that's something different. But if, let's say, the guy loses it, or if it breaks because that's not pshia. He loses it because he legitimately put it in a place, and now Juanita ended up moving it somewhere. He doesn't know what happened to it. Or let's say a mishap occurred, and there was he left it in a safe place, but there was an earthquake or something else happened, and it fell off the shelf and it broke. It's not a pshia. But a shoel is chayiv for all liability. V'chein kasav hamaharsham b'mishpat shalom shahamoser margolios l'sir sur l'machram v'nasan hasir sur mashkon lebal hamargolios v'achar kach avdu hamargolios yesh liftor hasir sur misham shmira b'va'olim. This is an interesting thing. The Maharsham writes the same thing. If I give pearls, a string of pearls, to an agent, and I say to him, I want to sell these on consignment. So I give like a jeweler. Jewelers will do this quite often. They'll sell items on consignment, right? So I give him an item to sell, but he gives me collateral to guarantee the safety of the pearls. So if the pearls get lost, we can exempt the jeweler agent because it's the same thing as Shmira Biva'alim. It's considered as if the owner is present because the owner has also taken an item of consideration and they are simultaneous shoalim. I'm still not chopping the analogy.
That's the question.
What is it?
Like, why give them the collateral if you're not going to be liable for the loss?
So I guess, well, it's not a liability for loss. Maybe the jeweler is basically saying, here's collateral if in case I decide to run off with it, or in case I decide, you can trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
sometimes we losing and running off. Still Durham.
Yeah.
And the collateral tends to lose its purpose at this point.
Okay. Let's take a look. Okay.
Except the collateral a day later.
I'm still not understanding the analogy between the owner being present and taking a collateral item. I think that what the argument is, well, that doesn't make sense. שהשול חפץ מחבר והניח עליו משכון ברמשל, אבישואל וחייב באונסן, ומסר השול המשכון שלו בשעס השאלה, אבל אם מסר את המשכון בשעס השאלה, צריך לשמור על המשכון, ובשעס שאלה נעשה שומר על המשכון, אבישאלה בבעלים. It's considered to be borrowing something together with the owner. In other words, you are, I guess the argument is this. If I borrow your item together with borrowing you, I'm going to be pater. When I give you my item for safekeeping as a collateral item, in a sense, I'm borrowing you as a watcher over my item.
It's a synonym of the guy who's got the collateral, and it's something that he uses every day. For example, a nightshirt is an example.
Let's not overthink this. I just want to get the simple case. Yeah, I don't like complicating cases when I don't understand the simple case yet, right? Okay, so just the simple understanding is that if I borrow something of yours, but I give you something to watch over that belongs to me, so in a sense, I'm borrowing your services at the same time that I'm borrowing your item. I think that's the way the Shach is looking at it. And as a result, if a mishap occurs with your item, since I've borrowed your services at the same time that I'm borrowing your item, I can exempt myself from onus.
But it doesn't say what happens to the collateral.
It doesn't say what happens to the collateral.
Or is it something we have to accept? We give you this.
Well, I can see that it's a shared responsibility. I'm looking
Yeah.
after what you gave me,
That
you're
makes
looking
sense.
after what I
Right,
gave you.
Right.
So that's a shared responsibility. But to Wayne's point, the collateral itself, the question of the Shiloh is, does he have to pay back for the damaged item with the check or whatever?
They're not saying that.
And it doesn't help.
Yeah, we don't know what happens to the
But you
collateral,
would assume that if he's putter, then nothing
Then
happens.
he does have to
but he
pay.
has to return the collateral. You would think that.
Or
but-
he gets to keep it.
He gets to
That's
keep
the
it.
other.
Well, but
Okay.
I mean, if it's,
Okay, let us continue. The kevin shahamashal kibul of lishmor et check, the chol shomer mashkon dino kishomer sachar. So, the lender, the guy who's lending his medical device, took a check as collateral. He's committed to basically protect the check. Maybe it's written out to cash, or it's a cashier's check, and he's got a responsibility to watch over that. And anytime you watch over collateral, you're like a shomer sachar, because you're benefiting from the fact that if the guy loses or doesn't pay what he owes, you get to keep it. Lo gara shmirazu mikol tova shiyasa hamashil l'shoel. It's no different from any other kind of service that the lender would provide for the borrower, and therefore he's providing a service at the same time that he's lending his item. Lefize kevin shaba'olim shomrim lo et check b'shas ha'she'ela nimsa shahamashil osa toiva l'shoel b'shas ha'she'ela ulakach nira shezeh she'ela b'va'olim upater. So therefore, it turns out that the lender is providing a service of watching over an item of value for the borrower at the same time that he's lending his appliance to the borrower. And because they're happening simultaneously, because of this exchange, then the shoel is going to be potter. That's a very strange halacha, and I would never have guessed this. V'chein hadin gam kein ba'adam shehizben lebeso bal malacha sheyavod etzlo. The same halacha will be true if a person invites to his home or orders to his home a worker, and he says, I want to retain your services to, let's say, service my house. You're a plumber. I want you to service something in my house. Uvishas ha'avoda bikesh balabayas mehapoyel makdeach bahashe'ela likdoach bekir afilu b'makom acher. Do me a favor, Mr. Plumber. Do you happen to have a drill in your truck? Would you mind doing me a favor? Now that you're here, I have to put up a painting in my living room. I don't have a drill. Can I borrow your drill? And at the same time that the guy steps through the door to perform services, he brings his drill and says, here, you can borrow my drill. So, v'nishbar hamakdeach shalom achmas malach. Let's say the drill breaks, not through the course of natural use, but the guy's a klutz, and he drops the drill, and it breaks. A drill. Yeah. So Shabal Habayas Shashal Potter Milashalim Afilu Imhu Pasha Bedavar. It'll turn out that the homeowner who dropped the drill is going to be potter for paying, even if it was through his clumsiness. He was a posheya. Kaven Shebisha Shu Shalas Achefetz Hapoyel Bala Mekadeach Hayam Mushalo Ba'avoda Bevesa. Because at the very same time that I borrowed your drill, you were also working for me in my house on something else. You were a service provider. You were already providing me with service. And that'll be true even if the plumber is not physically present. He brings over the drill, starts the work, and says, I need to go to Home Depot to get a piece. I'll be back in a half an hour. And that's when I drop the drill because of my clumsiness, and it breaks. Zenikra ba'olav imo v'hatorah amra im ba'olav imo lo yishalim. The Torah still will hold me potter from paying for the drill because it's as if the owner is present, since he was present at the time when I borrowed the drill. It sounds very counterintuitive. Yeah, it doesn't sound fair. Okay, let's see.
That's gonna avoid
What's the
people from
reasoning for
borrowing
that, though?
stuff.
What's the reasoning for that?
The reason for ba'alav imo lo yishalim is the simple vanilla case of the Torah. Is if I borrow an item and it's your item and you're present with me, I borrow your plow to plow my field, and you're there with me, and we're schmoozing, we're talking about the latest sports scores, and as I'm pulling along with the plow, something happens and it breaks. So I'm not considered to be like a borrower. The Torah sort of goes easy on the borrower when the owner is present, because the owner's presence could in some way, it's almost as if the owner is more consenting to let me have the item without liability. I guess that's the way the Torah looks upon it, because
Or is it that the owner being present could have actually said, don't do that, it's going to be dangerous.
That's probably what makes more sense. He's there, and he says, don't do it this way, do it this way.
Right, but he's able to get direction because he's there. But I mean,
that would certainly be a good argument, but that's only a minority of cases. Look at all of the potential mishaps that could occur with the plow. Right? It's true. A mishap could occur with the plow. And if the owner is present, maybe he could have averted it. And therefore my liability is less, because maybe he's more familiar with the appliance than I am, and yada, yada, yada. But we're learning the Talmudic expansion of this halacha is if the owner is present with me, providing me with service at the time that I borrow the item, even if at the time of breakage he's not present, I'm still going to be
That's the
potter.
hard part. to
Yeah, that's
understand.
the
That
good
idea.
actually does not.
I mean, the fact that
Yeah.
the plumber left to go down to Home Depot, I broke the bill at that point.
He wasn't there.
If I was the plumber, I'd add a little bit more to the bill, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll never know how much you're being charged anyway. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think that's the point of it.
It really doesn't stem, Rabbi. It doesn't-
It doesn't sit well.
The guy's not there.
It doesn't sit well with you. Okay, we'll send a memo to the Shulchan Aruch. Okay.
To the Shach and to the Ran.
To the Shach and to the Ran. Okay. Okay. Let me just continue this. Because there's a long footnote here. So let's get through the halacha. Ulegabe masha kasavnu le'el shezeh shahamashal shomer lo ala check zenechshav shemira biva'olim. He says, so based on what we've explained, that when there's a swap, an exchange, where at the same time that I lend you my item, you give me an item for safekeeping as collateral. So when I lent you my medical appliance and you gave me a check. Yesh ladun ba'ofen shenasan lamashal check shekasuv alav lamutav bilvad. He says, what would be the halacha if the check says on it lemutav bilvad? I guess maybe it's, I think only for the bearer of the check can cash it, meaning that it's made out to him specifically. I think that's what it means. He says, yeah, la mutav for the beneficiary only, in meaning that it's only to the named person on the check. It was written personally out to me. De ba'ofen kazeh harei mitzad hashoel ein hamashil oselo tova b'mesha shomer al hachek. So he says, I'm not really doing a favor to the guy by watching over his check. Da adarabba adif l'shoel sheyovad hachek mehamashil. In just the opposite, the borrower would prefer me to lose the check. Because no one else can cash this check, because it says pay to the order of so-and-so only, and no one else can cash the check. So this item really doesn't have value. And if anything, I'm not watching over an item of value for you, the borrower. I'm holding on to a piece of collateral that only I can use. And if anything, you'd prefer me to lose the check, because by my losing the check, if anything were to happen to the appliance, I would be out of luck and I wouldn't be able to cash anything. And therefore, it could be, says argues Rav Sharaga, that this is not an issue of where each one becomes a shoel. And therefore, it's not that the borrower of the appliance is utilizing the service of the lender at the same time that he's borrowing the appliance. If anything, he's hoping that the lender of the appliance will lose the check, so that he'll lose that leverage that he has over the guy. So, and therefore, Rav Sharaga's psak is that in the case where a guy leaves a check that can only be cashed by the lender because it's made out specifically to him, then that's not considered to be the lender providing a service to the borrower. And as a result, the shoel will be liable for the loss of the medical appliance, even if it's an oines, even if it was a purely, an innocent accident that occurred. Okay. Now, this doesn't make sense. A lot of what you've said, a lot of what you've argued, resonates. So let's take a look at the Makor Baruch for just a second and see if we can make a little bit more sense out of this halach. He says, "L'chora nira diyesh ladun bazeh mehadim mavur bebava metzia, bahad delameser tuuna ein din shmira beva'olim, v'hainu shekesha ozer hamashal l'shoel litzarach atzmo below bishvil hashoel." So let's say the Gemara discusses a case where the lender of an appliance comes over to the property of the borrower to help him, to assist him, but not for the sake of the borrower, but for his own sake. Ein bazeh es haptur shel ba'alavimo. So since he's not providing the service to the borrower for the borrower's sake, but he's providing service for his own sake, then that's not called ba'alavimo. That's not called that the owner is present. And therefore the shoel is still going to be liable. V'chein kasav sham b'hagos ashri b'shem haravya, v'mashal sha'azur l'shoel la'alos al hasus v'chulei, de'ein bazeh petur shel ba'alav imo, shehamashal, kevin shehamashal asakein rak l'tzorach hasus, shelo yinazek, v'lo kedei lazor l'shoel. Here's a classic example, he says. I lend you my horse because you got to go from Minsk to Pinsk and you have no way of getting there because you don't own a horse. I own a horse. So you beg me, I got to get to Pinsk. Please, can I borrow your horse? Finally, I say, sure, no problem. But he's a very delicate horse. You have to know how to mount him properly. You have to know how to get on the saddle properly. Otherwise, you could hurt him. Okay, so I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you mount on top of the horse and sit on the saddle and watch how I'm doing it so that you can learn how it's done. All of a sudden, while I'm doing that, some kind of accident occurs and the horse breaks his leg, and that's the end of the horse. So in that situation, the shoel is still liable, even though I'm there at the time providing the shoel with a service. Why? Because I'm not providing you the service for you. I'm providing the service to protect my horse. So as a result, the shoel is still going to be liable as long as the broken leg is not directly related to my action of helping you get on the horse. Okay, you follow? So he says, "V'chein huva lahalacha b'beis Yosef." This is brought by the Beis Yosef. V'chein pasak morenu Ramah b'haga. V'imkein yesh lomar degam b'nidon didan harei hamashil eno shomer ala chek l'toivas hashoel elo l'tzorech atzmo. He says, when a person lends an appliance and he takes collateral, he's not watching over the collateral as a favor to the borrower. He's watching over the collateral to protect his own asset. So why is that considered to be ba'alav imo, that the owner is providing a service at the time that he's lending the item? He's not providing a service. He's watching over the item for his own sake, for the sake of his own financial protection. So this is very, very strange. And that's really what the Makor Baruch is saying. It doesn't really make any sense. I took collateral from you, not for your sake. I took collateral from you for my sake. So why is that considered to be providing you with a service at the same time that I'm lending you my appliance? Okay, so at least we're starting to see some logic here, right? Shuvra isi. Oh, we'll have to hold it here. Let's try and continue this tomorrow and get to the bottom of it, okay? Okay.